I was talking to her, telling her in the hospital room, talking with Tommy. It was like every Wednesday she asked if anybody has a testimony, and I always have a testimony. I just don't ever say anything, and then they conspired against me. And I said, no, I'll get up here and I could give a good testimony. I mean, because we've been through a lot, but just because we've been through a lot doesn't mean we haven't been blessed through it. And the thing is, 9 months ago, our lives completely changed. I mean, one day he was fine, the next day he wasn't. So our life is just not even the same what it was. I mean, we had faith and we trusted God, and we put all our trust in God for most of things. We didn't do it all of it, but through it, God has delivered us through many things. But the number one thing that I've gotten out of this, I know my whole family has, but the number one I have is just complete, total surrender. Because I didn't surrender everything to Him before. And mainly it was our finances that we didn't surrender everything to. But through this, because of the blessings that y'all gave us, I mean, if it wouldn't be for y'all, we would be not where we're at right now. So, but the complete total surrender, just letting go. You know, I used to tell people, you know, they'd say, well, what should I do? I said, well, just let go and let God. I would say that. I don't know that I really believed it, because I didn't do that all the time. But that complete surrender to Him and just letting Him handle it all is where I'm at. And it's amazing the difference. And I don't know what's going to happen with Tommy. I don't. There's no guarantee what's going to happen to Tommy. Only God knows. But I'm okay. He's okay. My kids are okay. And I just had to get to that point where I was desperate enough to allow Him to work through it. And I was sitting in church not too long ago, and I know I wasn't the only one worshiping God, but it just felt like everybody was just sitting around staring around, and I'm like, no one's desperate like me, I guess. I know that's not true, because I know sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm worshiping God in my heart, but I was just on the outside looking at it, and God told me that mind my business, basically, on that one. But I was just like, you really have to get to the point where you're desperate for Him, and because if you don't, you're really not going to trust Him with anything. And I don't want anybody to have to go through what I'm going through to get to that point. Because I could lose my husband. And they could lose their father. I would not want that. Nobody wants that. But through all of this, I've learned just to give it to Him. My money, my home, my children. And I know Christina, the whole Brad situation. Okay. Start with Brad? Okay. What, Tommy? Well, I thought everybody probably knew. Well, Tommy, that's true, you're right. And I think about that. Tommy was diagnosed with leukemia 9 months ago. And, of course, he's been through many treatments. And none of them have really kept him in remission. And that's the goal, to get him in remission, to get the bone marrow transplant. But I know God can heal him. We don't need all that. We're just going through the process of it. And where God gets us is where it needs to be. And then, so he definitely... he's very encouraged through all this, though. He's never been down or depressed. He has his moments, obviously, but he's been very, trusting of God in that. And then, of course, a couple months after that, I think it was 4 months after that, Christina's fiance died in a wreck. He was left our house and didn't make it to his that night. And that right there, that was probably the hardest point for me, to be honest with you. And it was really, really, I struggled with why God? Why one more thing? Of course, pretty much my whole life I've had this kind of life, so this is not new for me. And but I'm like, why God? Why this? My child's happy, and take him away from her, she's not going to be happy. Which is not true, by the way. She proved that. She proved that she never ever lost her joy. I lost mine, but through her, seeing what God did with her, I gained mine back, and I've been joyful ever since. And I haven't even struggled at all. Not at all. And I mean, we're still happy and get along, and we just do what we normally do. And then when Christina had her wreck, like 3 weeks later, I promise you I didn't cry until I saw her in the hospital. But I watched the helicopter fly over, and I put my hand on the window of the car, and I just said, God, she's yours. I hope she's alive when I get there, but she's yours. Of course, I dedicated her on this stage 24 years ago, and I gave her to God that day, but sometimes I would take her back. But I gave her to God that moment. I'm like, God, whatever. I mean, I won't know till I get to Shreveport whether she's alive or not, because I didn't know all the details. They wouldn't let me go up there. They ran me off. And so I surrendered right then and there, her to God. She's yours, God. And I cried when I saw her in the hospital, because I have pictures, y'all, if you ever want to see them, you'll know why I was crying. And because she was really beat up. But the only thing she wanted was that brace off her neck and off that board. That's the only thing Christina wanted. She begged them and said, just take it off of me. She wore it for like 8 hours. And they finally took it off her, and she was happy. She has not been sad since they took that off of her. And, you know, of course, she's been through so much with the physical therapy. She couldn't walk, and now she can. And that's God. God did that. She surrendered her body over to him, and here she is. I mean, she's almost to the point where she doesn't almost have to limp. I made her keep up with me at the hospital last night. All right, keep up with me. And so she tried. She did pretty good. I was proud of her. And so, but she's come a long way, and I'm very proud of her. And she makes me happy. I always told her she's a better woman than me. And so she's doing great. And of course, Tommy was in the hospital. The next day he was going to the hospital when she went to Northwest, I'm talking about LSU. And she said, yes, she could go to Rapides Regional or she could LSU. She said, take me to LSU because that's where my dad's having chemo the next day. That's what she was thinking about the night of the accident. It's just, I mean, I wouldn't have been thinking about that, but she did. And so she's always put us over herself too, which is obviously what we're supposed to do, put other people over herself. But she's just, I'm just proud of her. But so is her daddy. But Tommy is, through all this, Tommy has really honestly, truly changed. I mean, he's been here his whole life almost, but it's just different. He's not the same person he is. He really, truly just wants to give all of his life to everything. And he really, truly feels like he's been called into some type of ministry. So I believe God's made these promises. If this is what it's going to be, then God's going to, he's going to be healing. And I have completely, totally believe that. Now, a year ago, I would have said, no, he's not. Because so many things in my life I allowed Satan to lie to me about why things happen. And so now, through all this, I'm trusting him. He's just through it all, trusting him. He's the only one that's going to get us through this. And doctors can say whatever they want. It doesn't matter what the doctor says. Well, I mean, it doesn't. Because God knows what's going to happen. And I still struggle with fear sometimes. That was, what could happen. But I'm trusting in God. And that's the hardest thing to do. It's just to pretty much just fall down and just say, okay, God, here I am. Use us. I want us as a family to be able to minister to people. I mean, this is me. I wouldn't have done this a year ago, by the way. I want him to use us for this. No matter the outcome of anything. I want people, when you see us, I want you to see what he's done for us. And he can do it for me. He can do it for anybody. Because he loves you just as much as he loves my family. So if you have to just, really honestly, I know that most of you have done this, but you just have to just give it to him, everything. Every time I pray, I just pray, Lord, it's yours. Whenever Tommy's cousin came to the hospital right after he was diagnosed, she said, this is your biggest fear. Just like 6 months before that, I told her, Tommy loses his job, and that's it. I don't know what we're going to do. And I didn't think sickness, but of course, Tommy did lose his job over this because he was just out so long, and they didn't honestly really care about him. Because Christina was out at work for 5 months, and they took her back. So, that's just probably the truth. They didn't care. And I told her, that was one of my biggest fears, and I really struggled. But she told me to surrender it all to God. And from that moment on, most of the time, we all live in our flesh too. Most of the time I do it. So it was through her. God used her to, reach out to me and show me what I needed to do. And that's what I want. I want to be the one who's doing that for y'all. That if you're struggling, you can see what God has done. And there's no doubt God is real. There's no doubt. He is real. I feel him every day, and I feel y'all's prayers when we feel them. Tommy's always he feels such peace, and I know it's because of your prayers. And I know it's not just y'all's prayers. I know everybody, lots of people all over the world is actually praying for Tommy. But the church family, y'all are a family. You're my family. I don't have any family really left. My brother and my sister, that's it. My mom and dad's gone. My grandma, grandpa, I don't have anybody. So y'all are my family. And this is home to me. I go drive to Clutchville every day, but this is my home. And and I do thank y'all for all the prayers. And I thank you for the money that you've given us, because I promise you, we wouldn't have made it without it. I have a few family members, and I'm very blessed that they have helped, Tommy's family members. But it pretty much has been y'all. And I thank you. And of course, Tommy's on disability now, so we're doing okay. And but just appreciate those. It was 4 months, 5 months, I think, that we was without any money. All the bills paid. That was God. I know He used y'all to do it, and it's just a total, complete miracle. I just couldn't believe it, because my biggest fear was that we would be homeless. And we didn't even lose our van, which we could have. And the van's paid for. It's ours. And of course, and my house was my mom, so I didn't have to worry about losing it. But y'all helped me pay my electric bill. You helped me pay my water bill. Matter of fact, someone did pay my whole water bill one time. I went up there to pay it, and it was already done. And so, just appreciate it. And the love of Miss Allen and Pastor. Y'all my mama's and dad now, because I don't have one. So, of course, y'all know how I feel about y'all. And I just thank y'all for what you've done for us. And Tommy appreciates it as well. And of course, I know my girls do. And we love y'all. So, I don't want them.